駆け抜け青春スパーキング
We were so engrossed with practice that the day flew by in the blink of an eye. And that rhymed. By Saturday, the big day of the event. The kindergarteners swarmed around us the moment we showed up at Kazumi Nursery School.
魔法使いのお兄ちゃんだ。ねえねえ、今日はどんな魔法を見せてくれるの？
Or rather, primarily around me. Yeah, I wonder why.
ゆうくん人気者ですね。前回はマジックを披露したんでしょ？だったら当然よね。さーて、私は今日は手始めに子供たちのリーダーになっちゃおうかな。みんな、私は響きよ。いいから黙って私についてらっしゃい。はーい。なんだかすごいお姉ちゃんが来た。
Hibiki wasted no time and hurried the children along to play in the yard rather than crowding around me. This really was Hibiki's wheelhouse, huh?
ちょうどよかったですね。じゃあゆうくん、その間に支度を。あ、お姉ちゃん。
Hina, one of the children who stayed behind, peered up at Riri.
はい、何ですか、ひなちゃん。お姉ちゃん、前はお兄ちゃんのこと名字で呼んでたのに、今日は名前になってる。何かあったんだ。それは。
What a perceptive little brat. One sentence and she picked up on it. Hina was incredibly observant for her age, and little girls really weren't to be trifled with. What's more, she was being incredibly precocious. She seemed to be pressing Riri for an answer, driving her to turn bright red and take a step back. Oh well, I had better tell her what happened. I'd better just tell her what happened. Actually, Hina, actually.
お兄ちゃん、ひょっとしてひなちゃんを捨てたの？
Huh?
ひなちゃん、お兄ちゃんのお嫁さんになるって言ったのに。
This is news to me. You said you were going to be my apprentice, though.
弟子入りしたら師匠に手をつけられて、そのまま出来婚なんだよ。
Hina, where have you learned these words? You're seriously a precocious child, Hina.
というか、ダメです。私が先に手をつけてもらいましたから。
Well, no, you kissed him, so you made the move.
だから私がゆうくんと出来婚するんです。
Calm down, Riri. Calm down. You're not allowed to flirt in front of the children.
でも、もともとゆうくんは私の師匠でしたし、手も出してもらいましたし。
If I had to say one way or the other, I feel like it was actually the opposite. See, even you pointed it out.
とにかく、ゆうくんは私の恋人なんです。
It was so like Hiri. It was so like Riri to get worked up and bashfully cling to me all because a kindergartner had egged her on. Listen, Hina, she definitely seems like the type to follow through on her promises. So, you know, there you have it. You know, I'm sorry. Maybe if you're a bit older, it would be more viable. I have to make Riri my bride, so I can't be with you, Hina. I'm sure you'll find a lovely boyfriend of your own in the future, though.
もう、しょうがないな。
Besides, it'd be weird for you to develop feelings for Hina, especially when he's known her since she was a kindergartner, right? If it was like, oh, you was 30, and then he only met Hina when she was like, what? I'm trying to think of the age difference, right? Because it's like not 20, right? Around there, right? if they met each other around the ages of 30 and 20, it'd be a lot better than, 18 and 4, I think. Around it is 4. Maybe I should have made you a bit older so that the age difference would still be the same. But, if I was... Never mind. You get what I mean.
ひなちゃん、祝福してあげる以外にないじゃない。頑張ってね。お兄ちゃん、お姉ちゃん。
Yeah, thank you.
ありがとうございます。ありがとうございます。頑張ります。
At the end, we both wound up bowing our heads to her. Seriously, she was awfully mature for her age. That's not a good thing, necessarily.
でもその代わり、昇進のひなちゃんを慰めるようなすごいこと、今日はやってみせてね。聖書します。
It sure felt like she'd raised the bar ridiculously high.
それで、今日は何を見せてくれるの？また魔法？
So to make it up for Hina, for you dating a different girl, we will rub it into Hina's face by doing a play centered around the relationship between Riri and you. What a perfect way to make it up to her. Oh, today's going to be... Riri and I looked at each other.
人形劇です。
というわけでセッティング始めるぞ。ひなちゃん、楽しみにしててくれよな。
こうご期待っす。
On that note, Hibiki...
ライジングカバンスラッシュ。わあ、お姉ちゃんすごい。かっこいい。もっとやって、もっとやって。
It didn't take long for her to be an absolute hit with the kids.
これは支度をしている間は小日向さんに繋いでもらっていた方が良さそうですね。
Yeah, maybe they're just at similar mental ages, but she's ridiculously popular with them. Luckily, Hibiki didn't have a role in the play, and was the right person in the right place. What do you mean, and? The rest of us set in to finish preparations. Then again, a puppet show didn't require any large-scale stage setting. Once we set up the box stage reminiscent of those used in a paper play, then prepared the backdrop behind it, and we were good to go. Then once the background music and mics were ready, all that's left was the performance, about dependent on how well the puppets and our lines were created.
おーいみんな、そろそろ始めるぞ。
At Shinji's beckoning, everyone playing out in the yard, Hibiki included, gathered back inside. Then Ritsu stepped out in front of everyone and bowed.
みんな、準備はいいかな？
She posed that question as their host, and a resounding yes in response.
おトイレ行きたい子は先に行っておいてね。途中で行きたくなっちゃうといろんな意味で大変だからね。
She squirmed with her hands covering her crotch, and the kindergartners all burst out laughing. Ha 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 ha. Hibiki really knew how to handle these situations.
どうやらみんな大丈夫みたいだね。それでは第1回風見学園青春部人形劇公演 in 風見保育園を始めさせていただきます。頑張るお姫様。
Alright. It was time for those of us ready and waiting behind the scenes to take the stage.
昔々あるところに一人のお姫様がいました。お姫様の名前はリリー姫。
You didn't even bother changing the names? My god, talk about a self-insert. With that cue from Kaido, Kaido's narration, Riri's puppet took to the stage. That was enough to get the girls to shout out how cute it was. The ones who made the princess's puppet discreetly struck triumphant poses. From here on was a brief monologue from the princess.
私は姫だから、何不自由なく、広いお城に住んで、美味しいご飯をいただいて、いい暮らしをさせていただいていますけど、でも、お城の外を見れば、私とは違って、恵まれない人たちばかりです。同じ人間なのに、どうしてこんなに違いがあるんでしょう。むしろ、私ばかりがいい暮らしをしていて、いいんでしょうか。
That was the worry the girl named Kashima Riri had bore all of this time. She was born and raised in an affluent family and led a fortunate lifestyle. This was what led someone as kind-hearted as Riri to constantly worry about those who did not. She wondered if her good fortune seemed unfair from the perspective of others. I mean, it would seem unfair to a lot of people. It's like, what's the point in worrying about if people see your good fortune as unfair? Like, you couldn't control when you were who your parents were. Like, what? This had weighed on her conscience for the longest time.
だけどお姫様にも立場というものがあります。それは周りの人たちのお姫様なんだからこうだろうという決めつけでもありました。
私がこう考えることも、みんなには変に思われてるのがわかる。お姫様なんだから、ゴミなんか拾わないで、お姫様はお姫様らしく、うんぞり返っていてって、みんな、そういう目で私を見るから。
お姫様はそのうち、気持ちを誰にも話せなくなってしまいました。みんなが望むように、笑ってみせて、みんなのイメージ通りに振る舞って、それはお姫様にとって、とても息苦しい日々でした。
This was how Riri felt before she met me. If that's how others saw her, then I could understand how she had struggled to share how she truly felt with others. I was sure it had been unbearably suffocating, just as described in the narration. However,
そんな時でした。
はぁ、今日から新しい学校だけど、きっと今までと変わらない日々が続くんでしょうね。
そう思っていたお姫様は一人の男性と出会ったのです。
alright, I was up. I am Tono. I am you, Tono. It was embarrassing for me to play the role of the prince. But I leaned up against Riri and had my puppet make its appearance on stage. Now I'll show you all something wondrous.
あら、あの方は確か、隣の国のユウ王子。何をしているのかしら。
Of course, his name is Prince Yu. I have 53 cards here. Draw whichever card you like. When I said that, the children shouted out, and that is the trick Oni-chan showed us before. I also heard a voice say Oni-chan the magician is playing a prince this time. This was getting more embarrassing by the second. Maybe they shouldn't have made... Maybe Riri shouldn't have made the princess and prince such obvious self-inserts.
ユウくん、頑張ってください。
I mean, like, there are always going to be self-inserts from, you know, the fact that she created this whole script based off of her and Yu's relationship. But, you know, you could have changed the names a little, right? You could have made Yu not a magician as well as the prince. Viri was here beside me. She encouraged me quietly so that nobody would hear. That was why I could try my hardest, if anything. If anything, it made me want to act with pride. The card you picked was the Nine of Hearts, right?
すごい。まるで魔法のよう。
It's just like magic. He's a witch! Put him at the stake! It just so happened I demonstrated this to the children last time. Riri the princess seemed to have gotten across how impressed she'd felt to the children, as if they had experienced it for themselves. In reality, this was the part where I had shown off my unrivaled poker to my new classmate.
少しよろしいですか?
That was when Riri had spoken to me, just like this, with a sparkle in her eyes. That had been the catalyst for everything that followed. And talk about nostalgic. Yeah. Except that we don't have that nostalgia because we didn't see that scene. Because, well, you know, Riri knew you way before we started the route. Oh, are you the Princess Riri I've heard so much about?
はい。ご存知だったんですか?
I heard you're a troublesome princess who's eager to volunteer.
困ったお姫様ですか?
この人は他の人とは少し違うのかも。そう思ってつい話しかけてしまったお姫様でしたが、少しがっかりしてしまいました。ああ、やっぱりこの人も他の人と一緒で。
But here's the thing though, right? Why make you a prince? Right? Wouldn't the story be more impactful if he was just a commoner? You know? And I mean, it would make more sense if you're trying to tell a story that's very similar to the one they actually have. That's not the right way to put it, but you get what I mean, right? You isn't rich, but he was still made into a prince in this story. Well, I don't really pay attention to those sorts of rumors. If you feel like that's what you want to do, then go ahead and do it. Why not just tune those people out and do what you feel is right?
王子。
やっぱり王子は他の人とは違いました。姫にそう言ってくれた人は初めてでした。
そうですよね。自分が信じているのなら、つまり、あなたも信じてることがあるんですね。だからそんなに堂々としていられるんですね。
More or less.
私、あなたに憧れてしまいます。あなたのようになりたいです。お師匠様、私を弟子にしてくださいませんか?
That was right. That's how it had gone back then. I had nearly forgotten what Riri had said to me when we met. But Riri had remembered perfectly and reproduced it in this play. Not to mention even how she'd felt at that moment in time. I see. So that was why Riri asked to be my apprentice out of the blue. She discovered something in me she felt she should learn from. As late as this was, it warmed my heart. It was because Riri had felt that way that we were now playing we were now putting on this puppet show side by side. However, could you not treat me like your master? Yes, that was how I'd been for ages. Still, that hadn't discouraged Riri.
わかりました、師匠。
I'm telling you, I'm not your master.
でも、私にとっては師匠なんです。
You're a surprisingly pushy princess. The children giggled at my line. Good. We seem to have them empathizing positively with the princess.
この出会いがお姫様の考え方を変えてくれました。自分も信じることを周りを気にせずにやろう。そう。お師匠様。ユウ王子を見習って。
From there, a scene of the princess's struggles as she did her best to volunteer continued on. What? A scene of the princess's struggles as she did her best to volunteer continued on. Sure, there's something... Okay, I don't know if there is something wrong in this sentence. It just... Is it the way I'm emphasizing certain words that makes me think it's wrong? Is there meant to be a comma somewhere here other than from there? I don't know. Even as others called what she did negative, she devoted herself without being discouraged.
だけど、うまくいかないこともありました。
Yeah, make Hibiki the bad guy.
今年こそバレンタインのチョコレートを渡したかったのに勇気が出ませんでした。渡せませんでした。
そう。出会ったあの日から王子を好きになってしまったお姫様でしたが、その恋ばかりはうまくいきません。あれだけ素敵な人です。周りには自分以外の女の子もたくさんいたというのもありますが、何より。
This is no time for me to focus on romance. I need to focus my efforts on so many other ways to keep supporting my kingdom.
と、王子は恋愛に見向きもしないで、自分のやるべきことを頑張る人だったのです。
そういうところも好き。だけど、このままじゃずっと振り向いてはもらえませんよね。でも、私もあの方の弟子なら、自分の信じることを頑張らないと。
From there came a series of developments that retraced this summer's events.
私たちは今、青春の真っ只中にいるんですから。
Okay, I was gonna make a joke of Riri gonna be like, I'm gonna teach him what youth is like. And then she says this, and I'm like, well, I guess I can't say it anymore. All of this time, I kept youth at a distance. So I don't understand it very well. What is youth?
そんなの。
姫の頭の中には、即座に恋愛という単語が浮かびました。
And then the wind picked up, and then her skirt lifted up, and Prince Yu got to see a full view of her panties, but that part was cut out of the final draft of the script, because that would have been too raunchy for the kids.
だけど、今ここでそれは言えません。いきなりすぎます。でも、いつかは王子にも分かってほしいから。
Princess, will you teach me about youth?
はい。私が師匠になります。
And then they kiss, because, you know, this would have been too long if they had to include everything between this moment and when they confess to each other. Riri had already been aware she was in love in that moment at the start of the summer. That was why she had been so desperate. Why the strength of her feelings for me had led her to act as such as she had. And yet, I hadn't even remotely understood that was what had been going on. Fucking Christ, I can't read. Still, I had also been in the prime of my youth without even realizing it myself. That doesn't mean you liked Riri from the start. I'm sorry, Princess. I didn't mean to embarrass you.
いえ、こちらこそ恥ずかしいところを見せてしまって。
But, I see, Princess. You're also an ordinary girl. You're just an ordinary girl. Except that Prince Yu is a prince still, so it's not like he's saying he's an ordinary guy. But if you just read the sentence, I mean, the sentence makes it sound like you in this story is being portrayed as an ordinary guy, but he's a prince, right? In the same way, I'm also an ordinary boy, but I'm still a prince in this story, which could have easily been circumvented if Riri just wrote him as a commoner.
恥ずかしかった。恥ずかしかったけど、少しでも王子様、私のことを女の子として意識してくれるようになってたら嬉しい。
Yes, we had finally taken notice of one another and grew close, almost like a law of nature. And because of that law of nature, you got to see her bra and panties earlier than expected. But the kids don't need to know that part. I hiccuped. We were so hyper aware of each other that nothing went smoothly. It even made us awkward at times. But in the end...
私と勝負してください、ユウ王子。勝った方が何でも言うことを聞くという条件で。
Wait, hang on a minute. I was joking when I said that they skip immediately to the confession. I mean, it's not immediately to the confession, but it's close enough to it where it's like, great. You just started talking about how you wants to know what youth is, and then what was it again? And then it's like, oh, we're just ordinary boy and girl, right? And then they get straight into the confession. Sure, that's fine by me. I accept.
姫の思い切った賭けでした。もちろん魔法使いの王子様です。普通に勝負したら勝てるわけがありません。だけど姫にはこれならひょっとしたらという手がありました。
She used her womanly charms.
それは恋する女の子だけが使える魔法。自分の思いを強く信じることで初めて使える青春時代だけの魔法。ユウ王子。
Yeah?
私はあなたが好きです。
She used another form of magic, but, you know, that's in the 18 plus version of the script. It's not for the kids to know. What?
一途な思いをただぶつける乙女の魔法。それは王子の鎧を貫き、その心まで届きました。
I see. This is love. This is youth. Wow. I've been in the prime of my youth all of this time, too. I was drawn to you, too.
ユウ王子。
Princess Riri. The princess and the princess held each other close. Their hearts had joined as one. Just as had happened for Riri and I. They shared a relationship of perpetual happiness. And I could only hope the same would happen for us. The children cheered with joy. It's still a slap in the face for Hina. Especially because this is a whole story about you and Riri getting together. Riri and I smiled and quickly turned to each other. Everyone in the collective clenched a fist in celebration. And, you know, since we got a few more minutes left in our time slot, even though we don't really, the kindergartners don't really have anything else, don't really have any other guests to entertain them, you know. It's just going to be the youth collective. But, you know, in the joke of them only having a few minutes left, you know, before they have to leave, the rest of the time, the Riri and you teach the kids about the birds and the bees, you know. You need to be fully immersed in the story of Princess Riri, and Prince Yu. You need to get the full context of what happened between the two. With our volunteer activities at the nursery school complete, we were on our way home.
大成功に終わってよかったですね、ゆうくん。
It's all thanks to your script.
そんなことありません。青春部のみんなが力を合わせたからこそです。
Yeah, you need to remember, she wrote that script on her first try, and in one day, less than 24 hours. Like, what? Yeah, we probably couldn't have pulled it off if we were short-handed. We walked along shoulder to shoulder, still feeling the lingering afterglow of a job well done. But I really think it comes down to how hard a certain Princess Riri worked.
そんなの頑張れたのはユウ王子のおかげです。
Riri softly embraced my arm against her chest as she spoke. I gently ran my fingers through her hair and smiled at her reply. Thanks, Riri, for thinking of me the way you did.
こちらこそです。受け止めてくださってありがとうございます。にしても
What is it?
いえ、少し思ってしまって。劇のエンディングの後、よかったねとか、頑張ったねとか、お幸せにみたいな声をかけてもらえたじゃないですか。
Yeah, they sure did. Even Hina said something similar.
だから、ついつい思ってしまって、園児のみんなにまで、私たちの仲を祝福してもらえたみたいだなって。
Ruri gave me a spellbound smile and leaned her cheek against me. Ruri's face was a blissful shade of pink, and her eyes glistened. She really was my princess. I was met with that realization all over again. We'll have to give it our best shot from here on out to make up for giving us their blessing. Make up for giving us their blessing. Yeah, I guess that works.
はい。
That was when.
おや、リリに遠野くん。
お父さん、お母さん。
Sir, ma'am, I did not mean to flirt with your daughter. Alright, Riri, have a good day. Riri let go of my arm in a fluster. I could feel just how hot my own face was as I straightened up and bowed. Good evening. I was just walking Riri home.
仲睦まじくしていただいて、こちらも恐縮です。
Thank you. It was obviously super embarrassing having my girlfriend's parents seeing us act all lovey-dovey. Even so, I was grateful for his understanding.
それで、二人はどこかへお出かけですか？
おお、急に人と会うことになってね。だが、少し時間はある。ちょうどよかった。リリ、今日のことを聞かせてくれるかい？
はい。
It seemed her parents were curious too. About what? About what the story was about? Because let me tell you, you don't want to know. We gotta do a lot of details at the end of the story, let me tell you. Ruri straightened her back and summarized the conception of... Maybe you shouldn't use the word conception in relation to the story that she came up with. The conception of the project up to today's events. She also explained what the play was about and everyone's reactions to it, and all of the naughty bits that the children didn't hear about. That was pretty much the same as telling her parents what led to us dating, but my face was practically on fire, but I kept my head held high. Listen, if Riri was able to do it with a straight face, you have to have the courage to do... You have to have the courage to look them in the eyes while she tells them all of the embarrassing moments that you've had together. I had to. or else I would feel sorry for everyone in our club, as well as everyone from the nursery school. Oh, sure, I guess.
なるほどね。
Her father slowly nodded, following the end of her explanation. Then,
それは素晴らしいね。
and then he smiled at us.
今だからこそできたことだね。満喫しなさい。リリ、遠野くん。
Thank you very much.
では、私たちは行くよ。遠野くん。娘を家までよろしくお願いします。
I will. And don't do anything I wouldn't do. Because if you do, I'm doing the same thing to you. Mr. What? Why am I blanking on the name? Mr. Kashima, is that a threat or a promise? From there, Ruri's parents walked off toward the station. We saw them off and slowly turned to each other. It seems like we got your parents' approval as well. Like you didn't already get their approval before?
はい、そうですよね。私たち、やるべきこともきちんとやったんですから。
If you're doing all of this to get your parents' approval, this just feels like a more convoluted way of getting it. This was a more convoluted way of getting their blessing than Tsumugu passing his test. Right? It's like it's a lot more convoluted than Tsumugu acing his test. Even it wasn't just passing, right? Because Tsumugu was always just a passing student. He needed straight A's. And I mean, like, Ruri sprung back at my arm because, like, here's the thing: this didn't feel like a test. How am I saying this? This didn't feel like a test to garner Riri's parents' approval for you. It just felt like a test for Riri to be like, you may be with you, but that doesn't mean that doesn't mean it has to change who you are. As, you know, the girl who loves volunteering because she feels guilty about being more fortunate than someone else. And I mean, like, you know, I kind of feel bad for her for having that sort of mindset, having grown up with that kind of mindset. But, like, you know, that's it. This felt more like a test for Riri from her dad.
お家までよろしくお願いします。私の王子様。
As you wish, Princess Riri. As usual, I escorted Riri all the way back to her bedroom.
ありがとうございました、ユウ王子。
How long are you going to keep that up?
これで終わりです。じゃあ、お礼のお茶を。
Riri let go of my arm to go make the tea, but I called my arms around her shoulders and held her close.
ユウコ。
It might be nice to cuddle up a little while longer.
はい、わかります。まだ余韻が消えてないうちは、ですよね。
Sounds like you got the idea.
王子様のお姫様ですから。
So you're keeping it going after all. We shared a laugh and sat down beside each other on the bed. Then we gazed at each other, which naturally led to... Our lips were naturally drawn together. No, not just our lips. We wrapped our arms around each other and practically crushed our bodies together.
お
父さんたちも出かけていきましたし。
Oh, really? What a coincidence. It's like her parents were like, okay, now that they've had now that they've gone through their ordeal, they're definitely gonna be fucking. So instead of being in the house and potentially hearing any sounds from her bedroom, let's just fuck off, go somewhere else. I don't want to be in the same house as them. I don't want to be in the same house while they're doing stuff, all right? And then the parents go to a love hotel. Never mind.
いいですよね。スキンシップしても。
As long as you don't think I barged in here just to take advantage of you.
そんなの思うわけがありません。お招きしたのは私ですし。何より、これをフラチというのなら、恋愛なんてできませんから。
She made a good point. Which was why this slight sense of guilt was the spice that set our passions alight. Riri, I don't want to make any more sound effects. Our kisses grew deeper, more impassioned. I need to try to speak over the sounds so that, I don't know. I relished the feeling of Riri trembling in my arms as I ran my tongue along the lining of her gums. Stop being so descriptive about this. I literally complained about it the last hate scene, alright? When Riri did the same in return, I answered by hugging her tightly. When we pulled back from our kiss. And I mean, that's the thing. The two complaints that I had with both hate scenes is a problem indicative with most H scenes. It's not exclusive to Kakenuke's. It's not exclusive to Riri's, right? It's it's most H scenes, right? Most H scenes are too long, and most H scenes have too much describing. Okay, well, that's a weird way to put it, but it's too detailed, right? Sure, I'm reading a visual novel, right? But you have images to illustrate, get it? What they're doing. You don't need to describe every little fucking thing that's happening when you can show me. I mean, haha, I'm playing through a visual novel. I'm expecting them to show everything. But you get the point. Miri's eyes were glassy, and her sighs were heavy with lust. Out of everyone in the entire world, it was a face only I got to see. And I mean, here's the thing. I love visual novels, alright? Maybe I sound a bit touristy when I have these complaints, right? But it's kind of the reason why I don't watch hentai anymore. Riri, you're making a super erotic face.
だって、私の王子様のキス、すごいんですもん。
And I mean, I'm complaining about this, but I'm still going through the hate scenes. And I'm still going to go through other hate scenes from other visual novels after this. So it's I have an easy solution to my problem, but Patreon.
今日の劇でもっともっとあなたが好きになってしまったから、改めて好きって実感してしまったから、こうなっちゃうんです。
If you make that face at me, it'll make me want to take this much further.
はい、わかります。おっきくしてきてくれてますよね。
You noticed, huh?
だって、私も濡れてきてますもん。
Riri.
もう、そういうことだって、包み隠さずに言えます。
I will say, I am unaware of how other VN tubers do it. Right? not in terms of in terms of, do they like, you know, obviously you got the censoring and stuff, but do other VNTubers also have a separate thing where they're playing through hate scenes of visual novels, right? Or is it just them playing through visual novels, even if there are the 18 plus versions, and then they're just skipping through the hate scenes, right? Or they're playing through the hate scenes because they're hot, but they're not like commenting over it, right? They're not reading the main character's lines, and then, you know, the blah blah blah, and then it's like, you know, it's a separate thing. It's like, I feel like what I'm doing, where it's like, you know, I'm playing through the game, and then there's hate scenes of the game that are exclusive for Patreon, right? That feels more natural than just playing through the visual novel, skipping through the hate scenes, right? Because you're on YouTube, and then like, yeah, because the hate scenes are still important. Yeah, and that's the other thing. The hate scenes are important to establishing the connection between the main character and the heroine, right? Like, sure, all of the safe for work stuff does the same thing, but it's the intimacy between the two characters that reinforces that relationship. I'm sounding very preachy about this, but yeah, it's a very, very conflicted. I'm very conflicted in this.
むしろ言えることが誇らしくて嬉しい。あなたにすべて見せられて、あなたにすべて受け止めてもらえるのが。
Because the reason I play through all ages versions of these visual novels is because I'm like, yeah, while the hate scenes are important to reinforce the connection between the two characters, it's not necessary, right? God fucking damn it. Well then, I'll just ask this outright. Riri, what do you want to do with me?
それはきっとあなたと同じです。
Even physically?
はい。気持ちを伝え合いたい。私の気持ちを受け止めてほしい。感じてほしい。受け止めてくださいますか？
Of course I will.
嬉しい。じゃあ、しちゃいましょう。とってもいやらしくて、素敵なこと。むしろ今日は、しないと気が済みません。
Yes, Riri. I pulled her close on top of the bed. In doing so, it only fanned the flames of our desire. Okay, so let me get this straight. First hate scene was on Riri's bed. Second hate scene was at the beach. Third hate scene, also on Riri's bed. When are they gonna fuck on his bed? This seems a bit unfair on Riri's half. Like, why does she have to keep cleaning up her sheets and not you? Oh, God. Riri, will you do it for me first?
はい。でも、それだけじゃなくて、見ててほしいんです。しながら、自分でするのも。
Does that mean?
今の私が、どれくらいあなたを好きか。今日という日に、どれくらい興奮させられたか。
Tell me. God fucking damn it. I knew it was gonna transition to the fucking credits. Brother. I was going to comment on the hate scene. And then, no, you need to have the hate scene at the end so that I can't comment on it. Except I still will. But only after the credits, because once again, this shit loud. I'll also talk about my thoughts at the end. You know.
夏の日にテンションばっかり絶望というには近く遠いさ一瞬時間 I wanna change it just for you 何をもってアイデンティティ明日も同じくのせす覆すここじゃ愛だって恋にしたって何万年同じ繰り返しコントロールパラドックス理解できるはずもない Don't blame me for you were safe 嘆き愛笑い合ったみたい悩めと青い毎日はきらめくどうしようもなく叫びたくなるような日々にもがきながら進んでけ不完全 Youth
Before I knew it, today was the last day of our long summer break. And speaking of summer vacation... Alright, I wanted to wait until at least a static shot before I said anything. Now, this is mainly for the Patreon watchers, but did you notice how much shorter the H scene was compared to the first one? And for the context of the YouTube watchers, it was half the time. It was 30 minutes or so, you know? Not exactly half, but you get what I mean. Now, of course, I've already commented on the first H scene and the second one, so why not on the third? You know, it's tradition. And it's still a critique, but not because it was bad in terms of the length. It's because it reinforces my point. And my main point, I guess you could say, is that H scenes do not need to be long. Right? Riri's third H scene, which is the shortest, for some reason, even though it's the one that happens at the end, which means you would expect it to be the longest, isn't. And that serves to prove that you don't need to make a long H scene to make it good. In fact, my argument is, it's a lot better if the H scene is shorter. It goes both ways for me as, you know, content brain and like me as the reader. Because a shorter H scene means that the characters are a lot more intense, right? And I mean, like, sure, slow foreplay can be hot, but it's when it's sex that it's there's a problem, right? It's like, but like what, 40 minutes of fucking, and he still hasn't come? Like, brother, there's something wrong here. But if it's like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, hell, even 5 minutes, then it's like, okay, those two characters went at it hard because of how passionate they were in their lovemaking, right? You get where I'm coming from in this with this, right? Where a shorter hate scene works better for the audience in the fact that there's there's less word salad, right? There's less descriptors. It's less about the narration talking about how good the sex feels and more of the characters confessing their love for each other, professing their love for each other. Not they've already confessed, right? They're professing their love for each other and talking about how good it feels towards each other, right? I don't need to know how good it feels. I can already infer that from their moans, right? Yeah, that's about it. There's not really much else I need to say, right? A short H scene has a short commenting on it. Sure, let's go with that. Compared to 1 and 2. But that's not all I have to say, because, once again, we're in the epilogue, which means I get to talk about my thoughts and feelings on Riri's route. And all I'm gonna say is Riri is best girl. I love her route. And you know, it's a bit of a shame that Hibiki's was so bad. By so bad, I mean personally for me. I don't know. I still don't know if people like it, and I guarantee that there are people who do, and I'm not going to dismiss them, but it's just I'm mad at Hibiki's route because it had potential, right? Because now I not only have Shiori's route as a reference for how good a route could be in this game, but now I have Riri's route, which is even better than Shiori's route. Because, you know, in Shiori's route, I have that entire rant about how the most important part of her character growth, which was the escape room scene, doesn't exist. We are only told after they go through the escape room that Shiori has opened up herself so much that, you know, she's made friends, right? She can freely talk to strangers now. And it's like, you know, that was my biggest complaint with Shiori's route, and the rest of it was great. Here, not a problem, right? The problem of Riri is feeling guilty about being so privileged, and that's why she helps people. While I still think it comes from a place of selfishness, right? Where she wants to feel better about herself, so she volunteers to help people, right? It's a flaw that's very obviously. It's not mentioned, right? But, you know, at least they go far enough where it's like, you don't need to feel guilty about being rich. You don't need to feel guilty about such and such, right? So it serves a similar purpose. And, you know, we get to see the result of our advice, our comforting, something like that. You in the form of the puppet show, right? And look, it's not a bad thing that Riri volunteers, right? It's just the fact that she saw it as a means to an end, right? In a form of, I'm doing this to make me feel better about myself for growing up privileged. But, yeah. It's definitely a lot more, I don't really know the right word to say. It's a lot more scaled back than Hibiki's route, right? Where Hibiki's whole thing is she wants to act like Yu's hero because she's always been the one protecting him since they were kids, right? And that blossomed into who she is now as a person here. And it's just, there were so many other ways you could have tackled that issue, and having that whole fucking school festival thing at the last minute was definitely not the way to go about it. And especially not when they publicized the whole their whole thing. Alright? When she went on stage and, you know, a heart-to-heart between Hibiki and Yu became public. Right? But, yeah. That's all I've got to say. We aren't finished, but in terms of my rankings of the routes, it'd be Riri, Shiori, Hibiki easily. Right? Easily. But anyway, what is Hibiki complaining about? Is it because she hasn't done her homework?
いびきちゃん、叫んでる暇があったらやらないと。
Yes, summer break meant playing games and doing homework. You know, Youth Collective had far too much fun this summer, so today was August 31st, and we decided to come together as a group to hastily complete our homework. Oh, no one did it. Unlucky.
というか、しおりちゃん、できてるところ見せて。これでよければ。ありがとう。愛してるよ、しおりちゃん。
こういう時、同じ学年の部員がいないと辛いわね。
わかります、わかります。
Yeah, don't worry, Nagiko. Yeah, I don't know. She's the only one in the third year, right? Shinji, Hibiki, Riri, and you are in the second year, and Ritsu, Kika, and Shiori are in the first year. You obviously shouldn't copy verbatim, even if you have other club members in your grade.
それに、りっちゃんだってもともとできる子なんですから、きちんと自分でやった方がいいと思いますよ。
But yeah, Ritsu is meant to be smart on this. She's meant to be as smart as you, right? Because she also needs the scholarship. And smart as in book smart, right? The street smart has varying levels between the two.
この夏はいろんな意味で特別だったから。
It was reasonable for Ritsu to grind her teeth while she said that. If this had been an ordinary summer, she would have polished these assignments off ages ago. Yeah, the first day. So what made the summer so unique? Well, that went without saying. As she said, this year was just that special. A lot of things had happened, especially for me. I'd been in an entirely different headspace this summer, which meant my homework had been left on the back burner. It wasn't as if I had left it completely untouched, of course.
まあ、その辺はしょうがないっすよね。
Yeah, he didn't leave it completely untouched, unlike in Hibiki's route, where he had to skip school for the first day to rush doing the homework assignments.
っていうか、あんたはなんで何もしてないわけ？ひょっとしてもう終わってるとかいう選ばれし者なの？神楽坂みたいに。
そういえば今日あいつ来てないわね。 とりあえず自分のことは気にしないでいいっす。それより先輩たちのを進めた方がいいと思うっすよ。
ごもっともすぎて返す言葉もないわ。
そうね。なんとしても今日中に終わらせないと。終わりそうっすか？
まあ、なんとか。
同じく。ギリギリセーフってとこね。
私は現状のままだと、ギリアウトね。
イバっていうことっすか？
You'd better hurry up then, Hibiki.
わーってるわよ。
Sorry to say this, but alright, I'm done. I mean, like, what else? What did you expect?
私も終わりました。
Well, why don't we head out early?
ちょっと置いてかないでよ、いろんな意味で。
Listen, you can be in the same situation as your cousin. You know, being the only one in your year to do the homework, so that you don't have anyone else to piggyback off of. Don't worry, I'm not that cold-hearted. Consider this a special case. I'll let you see my work as long as you give it back to me tomorrow. I held out my homework packet to her. Hibiki was the furthest behind schedule, but she had definitely been the one who hyped everyone up the most this summer, except for the start when it was Riri doing the work, when it was Riri doing all the hyping up to impress you. You could call this something like an expression of my gratitude.
ほんと？やったー！ユウ愛してる！
Hang on a minute. No thanks. I'm good. You sure are an opportunist, but
申し訳ないですけど、ユウくんにそう言っていいのは私だけですよ。
hang on. Ritsu also gets to say it, but only in a brotherly, in a sibling-y sort of way. There you have it.
それもわかってるわよ。じゃ、ありがたく借りるわね。
Yeah, alright. You're ready to head out?
皆さんお疲れ様です。お先に失礼しますね。
None of the club members criticized us for leaving together. Why would they criticize you for leaving? Well, I'm sure they can guess what we're off to do next. Sex.
ちょっと恥ずかしいですけど、でもありがたいです。
They're off to fuck.
それに、約束していましたもんね。
Yeah, we have to do this before the day is over, no matter what.
はい。今日は夏休みの最後だから。
So, shall we, Riri? I took Riri's hand and laced my fingers in hers. In doing so, Riri coiled her arm around mine and leaned both her chest and cheek against me.
はい。お願いします。ゆうくん。
No matter how much time passed since we had begun dating, it never slipped Riri's mind to be so respectful and considerate of me. With that, our first stop was the swimming area on the beach.
お待たせしました、ゆうくん。
No worries, I just got here myself. We both got changed into our swimsuits and met back up. There were too many jellyfish at this time of the year to go into the water anymore. Even so, we wanted to spend time together at the beach today. That swimsuit really does look fantastic on you.
ありがとうございます。気に入ってもらえててよかったです。
But hang on a minute. He's complaining about the jellyfish, but he says that the first stop was the swimming area on the beach. And here's the thing, right? I'm Australian, and sure, when I hear swimming area on the beach, I think of a huge net in a square-shaped pattern in a large area that would prevent jellyfish from swimming into. You know, that would be safe for people to swim around at the beach during jellyfish season. So, why don't they have that when they have jellyfish season? And look, I also know that Australia has a jellyfish that can still get through the net because they're that small. And what's worse is that they're also one of the deadliest jellyfish. So, you know, almost useless. It's almost useless, but you know, it still stops the box jellyfish and the blue bottle jellyfish. So, you know.
ゆうくんも素敵ですよ。
Thanks. Not as much as you, though.
そんなことはありません。細身なのにしっかりしていて、鎖骨とかセクシーですし、その筋張った二の腕や広い胸板も。
Those aren't your impressions of my swimsuit, right? They're impressions of my figure, right? You didn't have to say right twice.
言われてみれば。ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい。恥ずかしいです。
No, that goes for both of us. If you were to ask me what I find lovely about you and your swimsuit, I'm sure I would mention your chest that's about to spill out, or your waistline, or your voluptuous legs or butt.
それじゃあ。
Or your childbearing hips, the ones that that will support his future children. Their future children. I guess that means we're both head over heels for each other.
はい。メロメロです。間違いないです。最後に二人っきりで海にって約束して正解でしたね。
Yeah, we obviously couldn't help the others. We couldn't let the others hear what we just said to each other. More than anything, I want to have you in your swimsuit all to myself.
それもお互い様です。今日は独り占めさせてください。あなたの水着姿、体つき。
You've gotten pretty pervy yourself, Riri.
あなたのおかげです。
Thanks to me, huh?
あなたもエッチになってくれましたよね。
Yeah, thanks to you, Riri.
じゃあ、時間もちょうどいいですし、私支度を始めますね。
Yeah, thank you. Of course, I'll help you set up.
ありがとうございます。二人の共同作業ですね。
I wonder how many times that makes the summer.
はい。そして、この夏を一旦締めくくる。
On that note, we spread out a picnic blanket and set up a parasol. Sandwich.
ゆうくん。
Thanks for the food. Oh, that's really good.
よかったです。
We dug into our lunch. Naturally, Riri had made it herself. We came to the conclusion that if we couldn't get into the water, then we could do this. Man, though, so much really did happen this summer.
そうですね。一番は、ゆうくんとこうなれたことですけど、その前にもいろいろありましたもんね。
Like how I saw your underwear?
はい。見られちゃいました。あの時は恥ずかしくて、どうしていいかわかりませんでしたけど。
Yeah. I didn't know how to interact with you after that.
あれがなかったらきっと、私たち、今のようにはなっていませんよね。
No doubt about that. Also, we went to each other's houses and did a bunch of stuff for the festival.
みんなで遊んだことだって、今になって思えば、大事な過程でしたよね。いろんなことのおかげで、今、こう言えます。ゆうくん、大好きです。もう一口召し上がってください。
Yeah, thanks. I will. Love you too, Riri. Sound effect.
私、 ゆうくんのその大きいお口も大好きです。
I love you for saying that you love even that part of me, Riri. And of course, I love how great of a cook you are.
それは大好きな人が食べてくれるから頑張れたんですよ。
And I love having you feed me.
そんなあなたに食べてもらえるの本当に大好きです。
Let me say this outright then. Thank you for everything, Riri.
だからそれはこちらこそですよ。
No, I mean for where this all started. Thank you for teaching me about youth.
そういえばそうでしたね。そんな話がこの夏の私たちの発端でしたね。
We reminisced together. Back on the first day of summer vacation, we happened to run into one another on our way to the school. I was troubled and asked Kachima this question. What is youth specifically?
わかりましたか、ゆうくん。青春って何なのか。
This is what I can say for sure. Right now, we're experiencing our youth to the fullest.
はい、それは間違いないです。
On an outing at the beach, alone with the person I love.
水着姿を見せ合って、褒め合って。
Although it comes with some embarrassment, I can't help but feel happy.
そうしてそのまま二人で支度してお昼ご飯ですもんね。
Not to mention, I get to enjoy a homemade lunch my girlfriend made. The kind where you could go, say,
はい。すっごく嬉しいです。
I said this before, but all of this was a result of everything we've experienced so far.
ええ。この夏の全部が思い返すと愛しくて嬉しい。
That's exactly it. Before I wondered with what youth was specifically, but I'm sure there was no need for me to think about it. I looked up at the sky. It was the same blue sky I had gazed up at on the day before summer vacation. It was so intense, it hurt your eyes, and seemed to extend forever. Why would the sky hurt your eyes? Hang on a minute. Staring at the sun hurts your eyes, not the sky. Yes, it had extended all the way to today. I shifted my attention back to Riri. She was right here, clad in her swimsuit and smiling from ear to ear. In the span of this summer, where we began dating, she had become the most important person in the world to me, and I loved her dearly. And she had cared for me long before I had taken notice of her.
ゆうくん？
Yeah, we're spending it together. This entire time we currently exist in is our youth. So everything that's happened is also our youth.
それ、すっごくわかります。私たちが生きている今が、まさに青春時代なんですよね。きっと。
Yeah. So, Riri. I broke into a smile and gazed at my girlfriend. At her, practically the symbol of my own youth. The summer may be over, but...
はい。でも...
Yeah, but... Let's keep on enjoying ourselves to the fullest, Riri. Like we have up until now. Like we are in this moment from here on out.
はい。だから、今後ともよろしくお願いします。末永く。
That's it. Seriously. I love you so much, Riri.
私だって負けてません。大好きです、ゆうくん。
So, listen. Nobody will see us right now.
はい。少しくらいなら。
Yeah. Alright, Riri.
はい。ゆうくん。
Our lips softly met, It was like we were ending the summer with a comma instead of a period. Well, let's hope she still has her period, or else she might be pregnant. Yes, this was a breakthrough in time, but it was far from ending. After all, our youths would continue on for a long time to come. And we would keep on loving each other into the future. I was sure that would hold true, even when we made it past youth itself. Which was exactly why, here in this moment,
きっと将来、思い出しちゃいますね。今のキスのことも。
here in this world of blue that seemed to continue on forever, our lips continued to press together for the longest time imaginable.
Kakenuke 青春スパーキング
And there you have it. The third route and Riri's route. What am I saying? That was the end of Riri's route. And I haven't done it yet, so I will do it now. Riri, she is changing position. Where will she go? Who knows? Will she replace Shiori? Will she replace Kika? Or perhaps she might be lower than spoiler alert. She's she's first. I love Riri. I love her route, and I love that the last H scene of the game wasn't an hour long. I don't know what else I could have said. I don't know what else to say of that. But either way, I've already said my piece. I've already praised her route enough. So, where to go from here? We've done Shiori's, we've done Hibiki's, we've done Riri's, and and next time, we're doing Nagiko's. But until then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, and I will see you guys again next time. Bye-bye.